Good to see you all. So today we're going to talk about making websites better and the 12 most common website errors that hold businesses back. But first, just a little bit about who I am, so you know who you're talking to. I'm Susie Brown. I'm a web developer and I'm an owner of the Smart Bear. The Smart Bear is 10 years old this year, so it's been going 10 years. I do web design, web development and maintenance as well on websites, as well as search engine optimization, so SEO. I'm a small business mentor as well, and I do website training. Like Alice just said there, if you do have any questions along the way that's pertinent to the slide that I'm on, just ask, but anything else, if you just save till the end, and we'll cover that at the end. So, design is very subjective, so everybody will have a different idea of what good design is. But we can think about the best practices of web design that have been tried and tested. So I noticed the other day, and this came to mind about this slide, that cars are very different. Everybody's got a different colour, there's different shapes and sizes, but generally they're all very similar. They've all got four wheels, they're all windscreen, they're all aerodynamic, that kind of thing. And it's the same with websites. We expect things to be in certain places. So there are some best practices that I can share with you, but I won't go into design because, you know, everyone's got their own opinion on what is a good design and what isn't. And it has to suit your market as well. One design for a solicitor would not be appropriate for a nursery, for example. So design is very subjective. So the first mistake that a lot of people make is centered text. So what I suggest is to use centered text sparingly. It's really good for headings and very short sentences, but if the body of the website is centered, it can be really difficult to read. I think I've got some examples on the next slide. So this page here, this text here on the left is left aligned, and it's a lot easier to read than the one on the right. Now, granted, you might want it for aesthetics to have them in the middle, and that's fine, but just be aware that people may not be able to read it as easily. They may, in fact, skip it entirely. It's called, you get blindness for certain parts on the page if your brain doesn't feel it can handle it. So they may just skip that paragraph. So if it's an important paragraph, you may want to left align it, especially if it's quite bulky. Mistake number 2 is no clear calls to action. Now, hopefully everybody will know what a call to action is, but just in case you don't, it's giving the instructions to the website user to tell them what to do next. People are often time short, and the way the brain works is we need to be told what to do next. So a clear call to action will give them that opportunity, and you can decide what that is. So it could be that you want them to ring you or send an email or fill in a form or buy the products that you're pitching to them. But you need to tell them to do that. So don't assume that they will know to do that. If you don't have a clear call to action like that on the page, then you might want to think about taking them on a journey around your website. For example, if it's a blog page that you've done, a nice written blog, you don't necessarily want to sell on the end of that blog, but you might want to send them on a journey to a similar blog or something that covers a similar subject. Or you could send them to read your services page or about page. Just take them on a journey that will eventually lead to that sales page. And here's some actions, call to action examples. So this one on the left is a Tomicon. That's an event that happens in Newcastle. And theirs is very clear. It's grab your ticket today to save big. So they've put in a bit of psychology into theirs, but it's very clear what that call to action is. Get it now. And the one on the right is actually for the Web Summit, which happens in Lisbon. And they've got 2 call to actions, but you'll notice one is slightly different coloured than the other. And that's because the one above it, the green one that says book tickets, is more important to them than the other one. That's just a secondary call to action, which is partner with us. And this one on the right is actually it's like the first place on the website. It's what's called above the fold. So it's the first thing you see when you go on the website, whereas the other one is a bit further down the page. So that's 2 examples of calls to action. Mistake number 3 is poor colour contrast or having too many colours altogether. I'll just move straight onto the slide to explain this one a bit further for you. So the one on the left here is an actual website. And I was very surprised to see that the School of Art have done it, but I think they've done it on purpose as a bit of an ironic one. But it does give a good example of having too many colours on a page and too many textures as well. It's just too much. I don't think I could look at that website for very long. But people who are neurodiverse would have even more difficulty having a look at that page because A, it's too busy, but also it's using the colour yellow, which some neurodiverse people struggle with. And the graphic on the right is showing the different colour contrasts that different vision has trouble seeing. So it's just to give you a little bit of clarity on what kind of colours you may or may not want to use. There's a big trend at the minute, and it's just coming out of the phase actually now, where it was like a nude colour with white writing on, was very, very on trend, like rose gold, that kind of colour. But sadly, the contrast isn't there on those colours. So people with sight disabilities may not be able to see the website as you want it to be seen and may miss out on quite a lot of it. So it's worth thinking about colours. And there are some tools you can use as well that will help you find the right ones. And I think they're on the next screen. So yeah, so some online free tools are this one at the top. This Venngage one is a accessible color palette generator. So that's a little bit of fun. If you've not yet chosen your brands, or you want to maybe rebrand or just consider your color palette, that's a really good tool. The one in the middle is the color contrast analyzer. So it's a free tool so you can put in your own colors to see if that contrast is enough. And the one at the bottom is just a bit of fun, really. It generates some palettes. It doesn't really generate accessible ones, but it's a bit of fun if you've not found a palette yet that you want to work with. So mistake number 4 is not using enough space. White space can be used as a design feature, and that white space is just basically a blank space, and you use it around things to give things the space. It's useful if you've got images on the website, because sometimes if you block the text up next to the image, it's hard for that person to see the image clearly, or it's distracting for them as well. So it's worth spacing things out, but you don't want a big gap. So you don't want it to look like there's actually an error and something's not loading. So use white space effectively but sparingly. And again, I've got an example of how that can be used and what the benefit is. So this is the same content on both at the left and the right side of the screen. It's the same content, the same amount of content. It just looks very different. This one I think would be too overwhelming, the one on the left. It's all butted up, and you'll see that the button, although it's there and you can see it, it's not shouting out because it's just lost a little bit, and that would be your call to action. So if that's the case, that your website is in this format, your call to action will be getting lost. So what we've done on the other one is space things out a little bit more. The image here that's on the right hand side, I've moved down a little bit and shortens the one on the left. And I've moved the text down so it's all readable in one line. It doesn't need to be butted up against the button. And the button now has plenty of space around it to shout the call to action out to those people. So it's just using it in a way that spreads things out a little bit more, and it will make your website easier for the person to look at. Mistake number 5. No GDPR, pop-up or SSL. So these are now part of UK legislation, and a lot of you are probably aware of this anyway. And it's actually part of the law to have these pop-ups, and then they are annoying. Everybody hates them, but we do need them, sadly. So it's a pop-up that comes up to say about cookies, and there are some rules and regulations about the pop-up as well. It doesn't have to be a pop-up. It could be what's called a toast, which comes up as little like a toast coming up in the corner. It could be a banner bar that comes up or down, or it could be a pop-up in the middle of the screen. It's supposed to be there before anybody can do anything on the website, so they have to agree actively to using the website before they actually start using it. So you might see some that are blanked out around it, and you can't actually do anything until you press accept or decline. The buttons also have to be the same size and colour for accept and decline. And you should have a link to your privacy policy in the cookie bar as well. And it would be good to have the ability to be able to reject certain cookies over others. So you might want to say, I'm happy for you to collect my data for use within the shop, for example, but I don't want you to collect any data for marketing. So you can refuse those specific cookies, but allow the others. There are loads of widgets and things that you can put on your website. If you're using one of the main builders, for example, Wix, Shopify, Squarespace, etc., they will have all this built in. You just have to activate it. If you're using something like WordPress, you may need an additional plugin. There's loads out there. If you're using something and you're not sure, it's always worth getting in touch with the person who owns the platform and ask them, or do a little bit of search on their help guide to see if it's there and if it's available. The other aspect is the SSL, which is the little green padlock in the browser window. You have to have that as well now as part of the law. And Google uses it as a ranking factor. So it's beneficial for you to have it as well. And it just means that the website data is encrypted. Most platforms, again, have it and you just have to activate it, and it's usually free as part of those platforms. WordPress is slightly different. It's not free, so you'd have to depend on the hosting that you're using and see what they are offering. But most of them offer some kind of solution for free these days. If not, it's not a very much cost per year. So it's definitely worth looking into. So this is the ICO, the Information Commission Office website, and this shows their cookie banner. They've got it coming in on the left, and it shows that you can choose to turn on or off the analytics cookie, and then you can say if you can accept or reject, and there's the cookies policy page there as well. So I always say if you're unsure, these guys are the experts, so go and read their cookie banner and see if yours actually compares to it, because they are the ones that have set the they're working through the legislation, so it's worth seeing what they're doing. There's loads of different examples of it, but not all of them are right, sadly. So mistake number 6 is using Linktree, and this is a little bit controversial because everybody loves Linktree, and I used to use it myself. I think it's really easy to use, but it's actually not doing you any favors, because what you're actually doing is sending people to somebody else's website to get your links off, and eventually they will come to you. But if for example one of your links is to like a MailerLite page, you're actually missing out your website altogether, so the traffic isn't coming to your website. So it's better to have it on your website and have the links on your website instead. And it's quite easy to do. It's a bit annoying and it's not as easy to use long term, but it will bring traffic to your website, which is more beneficial. So example here is my own website. This on the left is my old Linktree, and the one on the right is the page that I set up with exactly the same links on. And what I was able to do is make it more customizable to myself. There's the cookie banner down at the bottom, but you've also got the option to, for example, here I've color coordinated the buttons because that works for me. And it also gives you the ability to put tracking in if you do that kind of thing. So I would personally do that, put a links page on your website. Like I say, it takes a little bit longer to set up. It's not as easy as just shoving a link in on Linktree, but it is so much more beneficial to you because you'll be getting that traffic through to your website. Mistake number 7 is no social proof. Independent testimonials do work best, but having that on your website can also really help convince someone that they want to buy from you. What you can do is, a lot of people will do that, is have their testimonials on the website that are just written, so you've written them out, but that could be that you've just made them up. So people prefer to see independent ones like on Google or Trustpilot or something like that. But there's nothing to say you can't then embed that into your website. I've got Google on mine, so I've embedded Google and Facebook testimonials onto my website, so they can see that they're independent, but it's still showing on my website. So people who are reading through can see, well, look, I've made a mistake there. Mistake number 7. So I will have to correct that later. So yeah, I'm going to just move on to this slide because there's some examples here. So this is part of my website. So I've got my Google and my Facebook ones on there, and it will pull through a certain amount and show a couple of each just as an example. This one is an example of somebody I know's website where they've just typed it out. And it's not as powerful because you can't see who it is. You can't see that it's genuine. She could have made those up, to be fair. She hasn't, but she could have done. And I personally would have the location of the person and the full name. A picture would go down nicely as well. And what this person on the right has done, who's another colleague, they've put theirs in their social rather than on their website, which is also good because people can see it and and work with it. I would do both. I'd have it on your website and on your social. But definitely social proof works. If people can see that other people like your services, they'll be more inclined to buy it. Mistake number 8, no story or personality. So who are you and where are you? I do small business mentoring. It's one thing that I see on everybody's website is they don't use the full name. So if somebody's searching for you after networking, they don't find you and they don't say where they are. So if I'm looking for a company, say I'm looking for a copywriter, and I want someone who's in the UK and not in the USA, I don't want to have to trawl through to try and find that information. You just need to say it on your website where you're based. It might be that I'd prefer someone who's based in the north, like me. So having that on the website will make me more likely to buy from that person because that's something I'm looking for. So it's definitely worth putting on, and you need your own story and your own personality on there. I had a mentee the other day who's starting up a chocolate company. She's making little handmade chocolates, which is adorable. What she hadn't put on her website was that she used to work for all the really big chocolate companies, and she has done for like 15 years. And that's what people need to know, because they know then that she's got that history of being working with chocolate for so long and with these big brands. So she obviously knows what she's talking about. Get that on your website to prove to people that you know what you're talking about. And like I was saying about location, some people actually love, a lot of my mentees are from Yorkshire. A lot of people love to know where you are for handmade products. So if it's handmade in Yorkshire, people might be more likely to buy it if that's what they're looking for. Let's move on to some examples here. So everybody hates having the photo on the website. I used to do, I hated it, but I've kind of got over it and put my big girl pants on, and now my picture is everywhere on my website, and it has made a difference. It's been like that for about 2-3 years, and it definitely has made a difference. It's called personal branding. So do have a photo of yourself, especially if you are the service or product. So if you're going into people's houses or people are one-to-one with you, they need to know who they're interacting with. So get your photo on there, like full name, like I say, and your job description or role overview. So what do you do? Who are you? Put your location on there and your story. So why are you doing what you're doing? Where do you do it? And if you do have any skills, accreditation, life experience, values, or goals, get them on there as well. Because people buy from people they like. So they want to know that you have the same ethos and values to them, and they love to know a story behind it. If you do have relevant images or videos for your story, get them in as well. Mistake number 9, not breaking up sections of text. So this is if you've got a long page, and we do recommend that you have over 800 words on a page, so that can get quite lengthy and it can be quite difficult to read. So try and break it up a little bit. Use subheadings and images. So subheadings you may have seen in newspapers and magazines, where it's a little bit of text describing the paragraph underneath or the section underneath. So like one-liners. And images do really help break up the text. People tend to skim read. So they need to be able to see where the next section is and what that section's about. So it's really useful to break up some of the text. Again, I've got an example. So this is a blog I was doing a while back, probably when I made the slides. The one on the left is the same copy, but it's much easier to read the one on the right because it's got sections where you can see if which bit you want to read. It's clearer. It's really hard to read on digital screens anyway, so just making it easier for people is better. These heading tags here, which is what hopefully your builder has it. It's called a heading tag, or it might be called H1, H2, H3. These are really good for SEO, and you want one H1 on a page, and then H2s you can have 4, and then H3s you can have like 6 to 10, depends how long the page is. But the subheadings that you use, get those into those heading tags with some keywords in, and that will really boost your SEO as well, at the same time as making it clearer for everyone to read. So it's definitely worth doing. Mistake number 10 is not using a blog to drive traffic. Hopefully all of you have considered blogging. If you haven't yet, then it's definitely worth doing. It's one of the top tips I can give to small businesses. And I know it's time consuming. I hate doing it as well. But what you can do is just spend a couple of days writing 12 blogs. get them perfect, get them ready. And if your platform, you can use scheduling with it, hopefully you can, like WordPress you can schedule, a lot of others you can as well, then just schedule them all for the next year. And you don't have to think about blogging for a year then. You can go away and leave it, just one a month, or you can do them more regularly if you want to. But what I would suggest that Google will come back and check when it thinks there's a blog. So if you do them sporadically like I do, I'm rubbish at it, then Google will come back and go, well, there's no blog here, I'm not going back again. So get them in at regular intervals so Google will know to come back and check for it and index it quickly. It also shows that you're an expert in your field. I recommend doing blogs on subjects that your customers will find valuable. So it could be like a frequently asked questions, a question that everybody always asks you. Rather than you having to explain it every time, you can just send them to the blog to explain it. Or you can use it as evergreen content on your social media. So blogging is a great tool for your SEO and just generally your website. It's one of the easiest things you can do. And I know blogging isn't easy for everyone, but once you get into the habit of it, it's a lot easier. 71% of B2B buyers consume blog content during their buyer journey. That's huge. That's a huge number of people who will read blogs before they go on to buy. Blogging influences 6% of e-commerce sales and 12% for businesses that blog regularly. So again, they're not massive numbers compared to the 71, but that's still quite a lot that you can influence just by writing a blog. So it's definitely worth looking at. And they do have to be a certain length, but they don't have to be massive. We recommend 800 words on a blog. But the top ranking blogs, the ones that are on the first page of Google, are between 1,800 and 2,000 words. So you can see the longer, the more effort you put into it, the better it will rank. So pick subjects that your customers will find of value. And when I first started out blogging back in the day, 10 years ago, I was like doing little news updates of, oh, this is what I've been doing today. And there was about a paragraph or two, but that's just not, people aren't interested in that. You can do that on your social these days. You don't need to write it on a blog. A blog should be meatier subject, something that really offers value. And don't be afraid to use help guides. I've got 2 blogs that are help guides, and they're for other developers. They're not for my customers, but the traffic that it brings in helps me get in front of my audience, because it means that I'm appearing in the search terms for those things. So it's definitely worth doing help guides. I have had a few bits of businesses from other developers, so it has worked to bring custom in, but I get views on those. I think there's 3 blogs now that are consistently getting traffic of daily hits to it, that people are reading it daily, and that really boosts my ranking for other things. So it's definitely worth blogging and doing help guides. Mistake number 11, no or irrelevant visuals. They grab attention to visuals, but I think we're all the same. If I'd have done this slide in black and white, you would have noticed it because it's a slideshow, but it wouldn't have been as an attention-grabbing slide. And you'll see from my background, green is my brand, green and leaves and things is my brand, so it's everywhere. But you do want relevant images. You don't want irrelevant images that are detracting from what you're trying to say. So again, avoid badly cropped images where you might be missing a head or a vital piece of the image. Avoid low resolution images, so ones that are really pixelated. You might have borrowed it from Google. Please don't do that. And it's just tiny and you want it to display quite large. There's loads of stock image places now where you can get really decent quality images, so you don't need to be skimming the internet for them. Irrelevant images, like we say, so it could be that you're talking about dogs and you've got a picture of a horse. That will just confuse people. So make sure it's relevant to what you're doing. Don't use other people's images, as we've said. There's loads of places you can get free stock photography these days. You don't need to be pulling it off other people's websites or off Google. I had a client actually who had made her own image. She wanted an image of it was just some fruit, but it was in a smiley face. So she'd made that herself and just taken it with a phone camera, and she used it on a blog, and it was stolen loads because it's such a good image. You can make your own image. If you can't find what you're looking for, you can make your own by taking a photo of it. Phone cameras are perfectly fine as long as the lighting's okay. Or you can generate it these days with AI. So you could just put in what you want an image to be, and AI will generate an image for you. So that's an option for you as well. Massive images. or massive videos or loads of videos and loads of massive images can really slow down your website. So try and avoid using really huge images. You want them to be roughly the size that you want them on the screen. No website should have an image that's higher than 2000 pixels on any length. So whichever way you're doing it, you just don't need it that big. That will blow up to the size of a poster. You don't need it that big. So 2000 is perfect for full screen images. You can even get away with smaller than that if it depends where you put in it. If you just put in a half a page, you can get away with 1000 pixels, for example. Videos are the same. Videos will really drain you, the bandwidth that you're using. So try and put them on YouTube or Vimeo and then embed them in, and then they're dealing with the bandwidth issues, but it will still slow you down your site when it's loading. So you don't want to have 2-minute videos on the same page. And again, what we're saying is tiny images, don't use tiny images because nobody will be able to see them. They'll be too tiny, unless they're icons. Icons you can get away with being tiny. But do consider screenshots. Screenshots are great, especially going back to the help guides. Screenshots really can emphasize what it is you're doing. Infographics, again, are great, and you can build them on Canva. If you use Canva, you can build infographics easily on there. Icons are great. Educational images, so it might be showing what it is you're doing on there. High quality images and copyright-free images. If you are using stock photography from one of the websites, it'll tell you what you need to do, whether you need to accreditate the photographer or whether you don't need to do anything. It will tell you that when you download them. So final mistake is no newsletter sign up or socials. So you want to be able to reach potential customers later on. So you want them to either follow you or sign up to your newsletter. Now, hands up, I don't do newsletters. I just don't have the time or the brain power to deal with writing one every month. But for some people, it's really useful and they get all their sales through, or most of their sales through newsletters. So for some people, it really works. So it's worth having that on your website to sign up. It could be one of your call to actions, for example, at the bottom. Sign up to the newsletter to get all the latest information and maybe get a 10% discount on your first order or something. Socials are the same. You should have your social links on there, if nothing else. Sometimes it's nice to have an Instagram feed or something like that where people can see what it is you do, and especially if you've got a product or a visual business, it's good to have that. So here are some examples of that. The left one is Marie Forleo, if you've heard of her. She's got a banner there, get free tips to create a business, life and business and life you love. And it's straight away, like we were saying before, it's above the fold. So it's the first thing you see. It's her call to action, because she knows once she's got you in that loop, she'll be able to sell to you. And then she's also got it down in the footer because she wants to get it twice. Just in case you've missed the first one or you weren't ready at that point, it's also down in the footer as well. This one on the right, they've got, this is actually down at the bottom, and it's got the social icons as well. So you can not only sign up to the newsletter, but you might then also want to follow them on Instagram as well. And this one here, these two at the bottom are examples from this link at the bottom here, which is template ideas. And if you're not sure how to display it, or you want some ideas or inspiration, this is a great place to find some pre-built designs for it. So this one is write a review. So instead of signing up to newsletter, they're asking them for a review, and they've got the social links as well. And this one is, like us on social media, because once you've on social media and you're a follower of them, you can basically broadcast your message to them. And it takes about 6 times for someone to see you before they'll purchase from you. So it's a lot easier if you're in their inbox or on their social media to get that 6 contact a bit quicker.